Great. Thanks, Quinn, and welcome everybody to our council meeting tonight. We got a fairly solid meeting, so we'll get rolling as quickly as possible. So I'll call the meeting to order. And is disclosure any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Councillor Gunson.
Mayor Bridge. So I have a pecuniary interest on item number 9B. Minto Minor Hockey request for COVID-19 relief funding. So I'm currently the co-president of Minto Minor Hockey.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. And then Annalene, make sure we remind when we get to that spot. I know we're going to pull it from correspondence, I think so. And then we'll get there. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. No other ones, then I'll move on to the meeting. So moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor McKenzie, that the minutes of the Town of Minto October 5th, 2021 regular council meeting be approved. Anybody opposed? Carried. And thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton, for taking that meeting on for me. And I didn't have to call in at real early in the morning or whatever, or from out west, not early, but I guess call in from out west, and I had an opportunity to be with my grandkids, so that was kind of nice. Haven't seen them for a while, so thank you for doing that. Any additional items for other business? Has anybody got anything? Okay. Next up. Okay. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Gudson, that the council move into the Court of Revision to be convened, or the Court of Revision to be convened. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So I will call Clerk McGraw to call the meeting to order.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. At this time, council will recess. So they will, if you are not a part of the Court of Revision, you will shut off your video and your sound, please. But you are welcome to watch the proceedings. So I'll call the meeting to order. It is at 7:02 p.m. And at this time, we need to appoint a chair. So does anyone wish to make an appointment? Mayor Turton, Deputy Mayor Turton?
Yes, I'll appoint as chair our mayor, George Bridge.
And seconder? Councillor Dirksen. Councillor Anderson, can I have you shut your video down, please? Okay. And then Chair Bridge, if you wanted to ask about pecuniary interest.
Yeah, any declaration, any pecuniary interest in general nature thereof. Is anybody on the Court of Revision had any of that? Seeing none, we'll move forward, and I'll ask you to state the following, Clerk McGraw.
Thank you, Chair Bridge. The purpose of the Court of Revision meeting is to hear appeals to the schedule of assessment for Municipal Drain 69, 2021, parts of Lot 27, Concession 13, parts of Lot 27 to 30, Concession 14, parts of Lot 28 to 30, Concession 15, and parts of Lot 29, Concession 16 in the Town of Minto, the County of Wellington. Attached for the members were the Court of Revision jurisdiction, as well as the provisional bylaw. We did receive a written appeal, and it was received prior to the 10 days notice required from Gerald and Jill Mackin, which was attached. The discretion of the court, persons who have not submitted an appeal in writing 10 days prior may by resolution allow an appeal to be heard on such conditions as to giving notice to persons interested as the court considers just. If the court sees fit, you could make a motion to accept late appeals.
I'll make a motion that we accept late appeals.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Dirksen.
Second that.
Okay, carried. Okay. So now my next up is we had appeals from the landowners.
Through you, George Bridge, I think the engineer is here to speak first. Bill
Yes,
Dietrich.
sorry, I see Bill there. Yes, Bill, did you want to speak to the appeal?
Oh, certainly, Mayor Bridge.
Yeah.
The appeal is on the from the Gerald Mackin property, and they own the north part of Lot 29 of Concession 14, roll number 2-201, and they're assessed for a total area of 22.7 hectares. I'll go through very, very briefly how the assessment was broken down in the drain report. And if you have a copy of our drainage report, the assessment starts on page 17 and continues on through 18 and 19, and then there's a summary on page 20. So on the assessment of costs, there's three different parts to the project. On page 17 is the assessment for the work on the main drain open part of the project. We've estimated that cost. You'll see on page 17 under total assessment of $225,300. The second part of the project is for the work to construct the main drain closed part of the project. And we've estimated that, you'll see, at $394,500. There's been no assessment to the appellant's property for the main drain closed. Originally, there was, I believe, in our draft report, and that was changed when that report was set out back in January. And then that assessment schedule had been revised, and the Mackin property has been reviewed. That assessment has been removed from the schedule. And I believe back then, I just pulled it up here, it was $9,340. The third part to the project is the construction and the assessment for the work on a drain. And we've estimated that at $114,900. And the appellants are assessed as part of their property into the A drain. And that shows up on page 19 of the drainage report. But we have the three parts together of the project. We've estimated the total cost at $734,700. And you also see then there's three different sections of the Drainage Act that were used to assess costs. We've had on each part of the project, we've used section 22, section 23, and section 26 of the Drainage Act to assess costs. Under benefit assessment in the Act, benefit assessment can be assessed to any lands or roads that from the construction, improvement, repair, or maintenance of a drainage works that will result in a higher market value, increased crop production, or improved appearance, or even better, or in a better control of surface or subsurface water. If any of those apply, benefit assessment can be assessed to the property. And outlet liability under section 23 is assessed to all the lands and roads that use the outlet or use this drainage work as an outlet or are in the watershed of the drainage system. You'll see all lands within the watershed are assessed outlet liability assessment. And the factors used to calculate, and it is a calculated number, and the outlet's calculated using basically three different formulas. One is where the water off the property would enter the drainage system. The other is the total area that's within the catchment area or the watershed boundary of that particular part of or branch of the drain. And the other one is the runoff characteristics of the lands and roads. Lands are assessed at a lower rate than roads for runoff, and as a result, they're factored, as well as we use a different rate for a reduced rate for bush lots. And then the third section of the Drainage Act, you'll see it shows up under special assessment, section 26, and this only applies to increased costs for work that's being done on where there's road improvements made. In this case, there's some new road crossings being installed, but all under the Drainage Act, under section 26, all public utilities and road authorities are assessed all the increase of cost to construct the drainage work caused by the existence of that public utility or road. So those are you'll see the three different sections. So if we'll go back to page 17, part of the Mackin assessment shows up on page 17, which is for the work on the main drain open. And we've again, you'll see the costs have been assessed in the three different sections of the Act. We have benefit assessment assessed at the share that's being assessed back as benefit is $109,450. outlet liability, next column, $88,190. And then there was a special assessment to the 14th line to the town of Minto of $27,660. And you add those three figures together, it equals the estimated cost of the main drain open portion of the project. So if we go back to the appellant's assessment, it shows up there under G. Mackin, roll number 2-201. There's two parts to the assessment. We did assess $1,000 as a benefit assessment to the property of the total $109,450 benefit. $1,000 was assessed to the Mackin property as benefit under section 22. Our recommendations here, and I think this is something the court needs to maybe have a look at, is what benefits maybe being removed from where the majority of the work on the open portion is taking place, whether there's a need or a requirement to assess benefit there. One of the things I could recommend here is that $1,000 be removed, but that's something the court needs to make a decision on. Is very subjective when it comes to benefit assessment. It's not calculated. It's a subjective number that the engineer always has to put in a percentage of the cost of the work into benefit, and only certain properties, farms or roads are assessed for benefit. In this case, I would recommend if there was an adjustment there, that the $1,000 probably should go against the benefit to the roads on the 14th line. But the outlet assessment, again, the total outlet liability is $88,190. And of that, we've assessed $7,856. And I won't go through, I've checked the calculations. I believe the assessment for outlet liability is fair and equitable. And a good comparison would be if you wanted to compare the assessment to the Mackin property. If we look at the property right to the east of the Mackin property, it's owned by James Fisher. The Mackin property is assessed $7,856 for 22.7 hectares, works out to about $346 a hectare. So we want to compare, and outlet liability is based on acreage or hectareage. And one way of, if you want to look to see, make sure it's fair or reasonable, the land's right next door to the east was assessed for outlet assessment of $14,091 for 26.1 hectares. And that works out to $540 a hectare. So they're assessed at a much higher rate. And the reason they are at a higher rate, even though the lands are in a similar location in the watershed, is the fact that the Mackin property was given a reduced outlet liability because it is a bush lot. So I think that the outlet liability, in our opinion, and we've had another look at this, it is quite fair and equitable. So I recommend no changes to the outlet liability assessment. And that is the breakdown of the assessment for the main drain open, which shows up on page 17. Page 18, no assessment for the Mackin property, which is for the main drain closed part of $394,500, zero assessment. The third assessment schedule in the report is on page 19. And there you'll see there's a breakdown of the costs again between benefit and outlet and special assessment. If we add up the total there, the estimated cost of the work on the A-drain is $114,900. And of the share of the cost there to the Mackin property, we've assessed $2,188 for outlet liability. And again, if you want to, I think as a good comparison, we could, if you look at the $2,180, there's only 3.6 hectares of their property is assessed into the A-drain. And if you work that back, it works out to about a little over $600 a hectare. And a comparison right next to their property is the Sauter property, which is assessed for $8,384 for 9.8 hectares, which is about $856 a hectare. So they're assessed again at a higher rate because some of their property is workable agricultural lands, which is assessed at a higher rate. So if you compare the two properties, it is quite the assessment is of $2,108 is fair and reasonable. No changes are recommended to the outlet assessment to the Mackin property, and that's how the very, very quickly and briefly how the assessment was done. The if you look at the last page in the report summarizes the total assessment for this project. We've estimated the total cost at $734,700, and of that, $11,044 assessed to the Mackin property, which represents only about 1.5% of the total cost of the project. So that's in our opinion, the assessments that have done here are fair and equitable.
Thanks, Bill. Now, does the committee want to ask any questions or wait till the Mackins? I assume the Mackins want to speak as well, so. You want to wait? Okay. So I think, Annalene, am I right? The Mackins are up now to speak, and Gerald and Jill, I don't know who's, you might want to do it jointly. I don't know what you're doing, but we'll get you open up here, and you're on the phone there. I've got you on. There you go. I think you're off the mute now. Go ahead.
Hi there. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical difficulty getting into the Zoom.
Did you get to hear Mr. Dietrich, Jill? Though?
We missed the first portion about the part of the closed drain.
Are you there?
None of our devices want to work today.
Oh, I know the feeling some days. Yeah.
Okay, so just before I get too far away from it, Bill ended there with the A drain and the comparison to Stoddard's beside us. I had done the calculations as well for the other two properties that are involved, and they're coming in at $326 and $198 per hectare, and the work is actually being done on their property and Sauter's property. So I just wondered why it seems a little disproportionate on that end. The direct comparison to Sauter's may seem like it's close, but the other two certainly don't seem anywhere close in our mind, especially when Bill had mentioned that, typically agriculture versus woodlot, there's like a 40% reduction because of the nature of the property.
Did you want Bill to take that? Do you want to do all your questions first, Jill, and then have Bill respond, or do you want him to do it individually?
Bill, if he wants to reply to that now, that's fine.
Bill, can you give us some help on that one?
Yeah, I can. The reason why they're all outlet liability assessment is it's not calculated at the same rate for every property, because one of the factors, bushland was taken into consideration, and there was a reduction of Joe's absolutely correct, about 40% of the outlet liability assessment was reduced because it is a bush lot. But the other factor you have to take into consideration is where the water enters the drain, its entry points, and they're at the upper reaches of the A drain, so they're at a higher rate per hectare because of where the water enters the system. So it's like comparing outlet assessment is like maybe being on a train. I always use that as an analogy. Is you get on the train, the longer you stay on there, the more you got to pay. And the same thing in outlet liability. So landowners at the upper reaches of a draining system pay more than landowners at the lower reaches. So that's probably why there's what Joe's referring to as difference in waters. But I think to be fair, you have to compare where to the property next door to you, where maybe possibly the water would be entering the drain, which is similar to probably where the Sauter Center. So that's my explanation of that, anyways.
Okay.
But can you correct me if I'm wrong, Bill? It looks like if I had to put a percentage on it, I'm going to say 80 to 85% of that A drain runs through the property on the north side of concession 14. There's a very, very small portion of it on the south side.
That is correct.
Air water also enters the drain there, correct, and carries through to Ontario Inc. So would it not make sense to, like, that the numbered Ontario company would be more in line, especially being it's agriculture, and that it should be at a higher rate because, or the gray property? Like, how does that make sense? You're saying ours is higher because it's
Yeah.
above, but
Yeah.
yet one of the two of those is above the next one. They're not one and the same, even though they're owned by the same two people.
Mhm. Again, it's not the length of the drain, it's where your water enters the drain. So if you're at the
Okay.
upper end, you're going to pay a higher rate per hectare. That's about all how I can explain that.
Okay. But when you look at it that way, Ontario Inc. and Kevin Gray are above the next one, and they're the lowest calculation rate at 198 per hectare, but they have 13 hectares, which is 4 times as much hectarage as we have and 1.5 times as much as Sauder. And then Ontario Inc. is 12.1, so that's another 4 times ours, and 1.5 times Sauder's. And their numbers are significantly lower. They're not just barely lower. We're 600, Sauder's 850 plus, and then there's 325 and 198, or 326 and 198. Seems a little disproportionate to us.
Well, I think it's been done fairly. That's all I can tell you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Yeah, it's something I know it's not I mean, I'm not an engineer, so I have to rely on Bill's expertise in that area, but
it would make sense to me if one property that drained into the next, you're using that as a calculation, and then one of theirs drains into the next one of theirs, but why is it not the same reflection? That doesn't make sense. So
Okay.
the one across from Sauder's is draining into the next one. So how is it not the same concept and same calculation in theory? And they're agriculture, so they don't get the 40% reduction, whereas we're woodlot. So it does not make sense to me that we're double and triple the calculated rate of those two properties.
Well, those two properties have a lot of woodlot on their property as well. It's not all workable land.
Right, but we're entirely woodlot, so there's no partial factor there. But one is still upstream of the other. So I'm not sure how that can be explained logically.
Yeah, well, if you combine the two together, then if the two properties are owned by the same farmer,
You can't combine them together. It's
500
two separate parcels of land. They should be assessed fairly and equitably based on them being two separate parcels of land. If I own the one next to me, I'd be paying the same fair and equitable share on each property, and I think as should they. So I'll leave that with the council there, but
do you want to go on to another point, Joe? I think we've come to a sort of an impasse. That Bill's explain what he thinks, and then we'll go from there. But I think your point was made. What's your next? Do you have another point? Or
I did. I just had some notes and a couple of questions. So, as mentioned earlier, we sadly didn't have the luxury of time to research and do this. So, we didn't have all our I's dotted and T's crossed as quickly as others, maybe because we weren't aware of the process and the ongoing since 2014. We didn't know until January. It's an unfamiliar process to us as we aren't farmers. We haven't, agriculture is not our forte. So, Bill, when the calculations were done, the 9340 error on the closed drain that was removed, there was 19.1 hectares assessed there for the closed drain, and then 3.6 hectares for the A drain beside, which totals 22.7 hectares, which is our entire woodlot. Correct? You following me?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Okay. And then, in addition to that, like that 19.1 was taken off because that calculation was made an error. But now we've got a 22.7 hectare approximate affected acreage for the open drain and the 3.6 in addition on the A drain. So it seems to me that that 3.6 on the northwest corner of our property is being assessed twice, because the actual acreage affected, if it's our entire property, can't be our entire property plus another amount of hectarage, because there is only one amount, surface area, correct?
That's
So I'm wondering, was that, I know the amount, the 9340 was taken out, but were the calculations for the other assessments redone based on that error?
okay. We'll go back to the first of all, you do actually. We'll go back to the area of your property, and you're absolutely correct. You own 20. Let's see here, 22.7. 22.7. Okay. You have 20, and the reason you're assessed 22.7 hectares into the main drain open, because all of your property is assessed to the open portion of this drainage system. Therefore, you're assessed for 22.7 hectares of land. Okay, and it isn't added on. When you get to the next assessment schedule, branch A or A drain, you're assessed 3.6 hectares of the 22.7 into A drain, because of the area that's of your property that we assessed to A drain was just the portion of your property that is in the watershed of A drain. So it's not 22, it's 3.6 out of the 22.7. Okay, so we didn't add the two together. And the reason you were removed from the main drain closed, it was on our, when I had another look at the assessment schedule that was sent out in January, they had your property included for payment towards or being assessed to the closed part, which is that orange line on the drawing. And we didn't feel that being it's all bushland, that you'll ever use it for an outlet system. Therefore, we reduced your outlet assessment for the closed part of the project to zero. And you'll see in the A drain or the main drain closed part of this project is I think we've estimated that at $394,500, and you have no. Let's see. No, that's. Make sure I got the right assessment here now. Yeah, if we go to page 18, yeah, the total cost is $394,500, and you have no assessment now towards that. And originally, we did have assessed for some outlet liability into that part of the project, and we've removed that. It was just
Yeah, I understand that because it was put in there in error. We understand that.
Okay. No errors in the other two. You're assessed 3.6 and 22.7. Not you don't add the two together. Okay.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
Well, the entire property, if it's the 3.6 we understood was the northwest corner of the property that contributes to the A drain, correct?
That's correct.
So how is that 3.6 also contributing to the main drain open?
Oh, okay. That's a very good.
Should it not?
That's
How is it going over the actual hectarage that we own?
No, that 3.6 hectares is the portion of your property that drains into or is assessed to A drain. But if you look at the map, A drain outlets into the main drain open. So you are assessed for 22.7, but that 22.7 already includes the 3.6. Okay, it's not. We didn't add the two together.
No, Bill, we understand that. What we're saying is we're being assessed for our full amount of property going into the A drain, and then also assessed another 3.6 for our water going the other way into the other drain.
No, and Bill, it all goes into the main drain open. But how can you bill for that drainage of that 3.6 hectares twice?
Okay, if there was,
water can't be going into the same place and billed twice.
yeah, I can. Okay, first of all, if you got some land draining into a branch of the drain, in this case, is called A drain. You pay for a portion of whatever land that's within the catchment area of your property is assessed for outlet into that branch. So we've calculated here that 3.6 hectares of your property of the 22.7 is in the watershed or the catchment area. So you're only being assessed for 3.6 hectares into branch A, but branch A then goes into the main drain. So eventually all of your property is accessible for the main drain, because eventually all of your property is within the catchment area of the main drain. Does that explain it?
It does, but it still shouldn't equal more than 22.7. That's all of our acreage.
You can add the two together, okay? They're assessed separately.
Still build twice, Bill.
Nope. You look at the other properties on A drain. Let's go right next door again to the Jason Sauter property. They own a total of, let's look at their area that's assessed there. Drain open Sauters.
17.
Assessed for 17.4 hectares. Okay. Of the 17.4, they're assessed 9.8 of that into branch A. So very similarly, we took the area just of their property that's draining into A drain, and we assessed it just for that not the total area, but just the area that goes into branch A. So you're always assessed for the portion of your property that drains into each branch of the drain. So it was done very similar then for Sauters. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
We
You
had
got any
talked
more,
earlier-
Jill? And I'm gonna open it up to the
We had
tribunal.
talked earlier, Bill, yesterday about the maintenance discrepancy. The access is from the east side, and you had mentioned that the access for maintenance would be from the east side as well, yet in the report it says from the west side. Did you put a recommendation into the court to have that revised for east side maintenance access?
Yeah, that's not something that the court can deal with. The court tonight can only deal with with the assessment of costs.
Okay, and I'm just going through my notes here. Is the maintenance schedule calculation done the same as the calculation on the total assessment for hectarage affected?
I don't think you weren't appealing your maintenance schedule, were you, or were you? I didn't realize. Yeah, the main drain open, you'll see, I guess, yeah.
The reason I'm asking, Bill, and members of the court, is because in the maintenance schedules, we repeatedly see on that main drain open the 13.6 hectares affected. So we're trying to understand why that 13.6 keeps coming up as hectares affected, yet the 22.7 is in the assessment. So I was looking for an explanation, Bill, as to whether or not they're done by means of the same calculation.
No, the percentage for maintenance is different than the construction cost. You'll see a lot of the costs for this project was assessed directly as benefit assessment for the properties that are where the work is going to take place, but in the future, the costs are more. For maintenance are spread out more over the watershed. So no, the calculations are a little different.
Okay, because you suggested there earlier that the total assessment reflects about a 1.5%, but yet we're 8.9% of the maintenance.
Yeah,
Totally different hectares.
That's correct. For construction, you're assessed at a lower rate because you don't really benefit from you don't have any really direct benefits from the project. Therefore, but in the future, everyone pays what's in the watershed for maintaining these systems. So yeah, the rate is different. That's all I can tell you.
So it's yet another calculation.
That's correct.
Is that subjective as well?
Yes, and the assessment for maintenance, that schedule is only used in the future if there's any maintenance required on the drainage system.
Okay. And we did just, hang on 1 second, I just need to check that I've not missed anything. Because we did discuss our other concerns with fish wildlife, which was in there, but we're not gonna get into that. I don't think right now that we have any further questions.
Okay, thanks, Jill and Gerald. And maybe I'll open it up now. Does anybody got on the tribunal any questions for Jill or Gerald or for Bill? Okay. Annaline, do we have anybody else settled to speak? Well, okay.
Through you, Chair Bridge, we did pass, of course, the motion that would allow people to come on, and we did have people that registered. So the first one would be Jim Fisher, and I see that he is on there. So again, they did not say that they wanted to speak or not, but they did want to be a part of the meeting. So if Jim, if you wanted to unmute yourself and let us know if you had anything further to add.
Yes, please.
And we'll just give him, there we go.
Oh, there he is.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Does this go on your tax bill, or do you have to come up with the money all at once, or can it be divided over 3 years?
That's a good question. Do we have that, Annaline?
So I'm gonna have to double check with finance on that. Bill may know the answer to that one. That I know that it is payable on taxes if you do not pay it, but there may be a schedule of payment depending on the amount that is owed. But I would have to look into that for you, Jim, further, just to make sure that it's correct.
Okay, that was my question. That was my question.
Thank you.
If you want to get back to me on that, that would be fine.
We will.
I will certainly get back to you on that.
And I got Kevin maybe next. I'm just looking at my list here. Kevin, did you want to speak?
No, I'm good. I'm whatever, just would really like to get her done.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. And I'm just trying to look down and see what else I got possibly.
So we did have Mervyn Ray.
Yeah, I saw Mervyn, but I don't see him.
And let me just allow them to talk.
Oh, there he is.
They
Mervyn.
did call in.
Yeah.
So if he could
Go ahead,
unmute.
Mervyn. Go ahead, Mervyn.
Oh, I don't have any questions.
Okay,
I really
thank
don't
you.
have any.
That's fine. We're just asking if you did. That's all right. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Is anybody else that I can't see?
We do have two other people, Rick and Deanna Herbert are next, and we'll ask them to unmute.
Sure. Oh, there they are. Yeah. Go ahead.
We'll just give them a moment to join and see if they have any further questions. And they are unmuted now.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rick.
And one further one, it says Trevor Smith, but it was Willard Brubaker. And we will ask them to unmute and see if they have any further questions.
I'm good.
Trevor's good. Okay.
Okay.
Did I hear Willard was good too?
Yep. He said no further questions either. So.
All right.
And that was all that I had registered.
Okay. So I guess next up we go off, Annaline, then.
Yep. So the Court of Revisions will now jump out of this meeting, and they will join a private meeting to order to deliberate, and then we'll join back as soon as they are done. So if everyone just wants to hang out, we will be back shortly.
Second. So thank you, everybody, for your patience, and thanks for the input that everybody gave today, and Bill for your report. And I'm going to get Annaline to read our decision.
Thank you, Chair Bridge. The decision of the Court of Revision. The decision pronounced is on the 19th day of October 2021. The appeal number 1, appellant Gerald and Jill Mackin for property lot 29, concession 14. The appeal summary with assessment should be reduced due to being a bush lot. That the assessment costs on lot 29, concession 14, roll 02-201 stand, and that the appeal be dismissed. Property has been assessed at a similar rate to neighboring bush lot properties. Further appeal rights, if dissatisfied with the decision of the Court of Revision, which have been pronounced, anyone may appeal this decision to the Agriculture, Food, and Rural Affairs Tribunal by filing a notice of appeal with the clerk of the municipality, which is myself, within 21 days of this decision. This will also be sent out by mail.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks for the courts. Okay,
And we will,
so that's closed at this point
and we
in
will
time.
adjourn. Okay.
We'll adjourn that. And thanks, Bill. I don't think you have to hang on now.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
And members of council can now join.
Yeah, are they all on there now? Let me know when they're.
They're just coming up now. And
Okay.
all members are back.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, and I will move by Councillor Anderson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The Town of Minto Council convenes the Committee of the Whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you. We have no public meetings, no delegations, correspondence received for information acquiring directions of council. I want to pull the Minto minor hockey request for COVID-19 relief funding. Does anybody else, anything else they want to pull there? Judy?
I would just like to ensure that item number 9D has a response from the town, from somebody. As usual, when one of our residents sends us correspondence, I'd like to make sure that it's responded to in some way,
Yep,
please.
we can do that, Judy. Yep, I'll get Derek to respond.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Jeff, I guess if well, you're fine now, we're just going to pull that. And do we deal with that right now, Annalene, or do we wait till the?
Yep, you can deal with that now. Jeff has, Councillor Gunson has removed himself, so you can now discuss item 9B.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let me just get it up here on my other screen. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory. And when we talked last year about when we got some money for COVID relief from the other levels of government, we sort of set some money aside, knowing that some of our organizations are going to have a suffering year last year, and then even this year with some of the changes that were made, that they've got less kids on the ice, but they can't spread the load out. Maybe they can't get as many tournaments. So I thought we've asked any of our sports organizations or any other organizations to write to us and let us know if there is some concerns and ask for help. So I do believe it's been put away in the budget, so I will turn it over to any discussion at this point. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Turton.
Yeah, I think this document is pretty well put together here, and I mean, this fund was exactly what you said. For this, the minor hockey system to be in debt $14,800, and some of the tournaments and everything that they had that they didn't have. I mean, that 14.8 is a pretty low number. I mean, it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm in favor of this.
Judy, go ahead.
So I'm in favor of helping them out. But there's no real, like they talk about, that's their deficit, but I'm assuming they maybe would have had some money left at the end of the year before, so that might not be their deficit from just 2020. I'm not sure. That's not really clear in here. And then they talk about the tournaments would generate around $20,000 alone. So so I'm just wondering, like, what is the magic number? Like, is there a request here, or is there a limit? I don't remember from the funding that we have. Is there do we have a process in place, or you know what I'm saying? I'm wondering if we need a kind of a bit more information before we can make a decision, unless somebody knows something more than what's in.
I think I'll turn that over to Derek. I think Derek can answer that question. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Dirksen. I think it was when we first got the funding, we had suggested to our community groups that they could make a request of us, and that council would deliberate and consider it. I take you back to the seniors. We had just recently awarded them $10,000 to continue on with some technology needs. So there is no limit per se. However, we do have, and I think I can pass over to Treasurer Duff, but we did in our last update to you allocate a certain amount of money towards community groups. And I think this, if I'm not mistaken, falls into that envelope. So maybe Gord could take it a little further.
Certainly, thanks, CAO Thompson. That's totally correct. I think it was at our July meeting, we kind of went through a preliminary and roughly 25,000 for community groups. And I believe this particular user group has a very large user of our facilities was certainly discussed at that meeting. And I think the request 14.5 or less certainly falls within that we had contemplated, knowing that things keep changing all the time. But yes, it seems reasonable.
Does that help, Judy? I don't think we asked them to do a item by item for this, but.
So just to follow up then, I think I understood our treasurer to say that we have about 25,000 that we can share in that fund. So if we give Minto Minor Hockey about 15 and we've already given the seniors 10, then that money's gone. Is that what you're saying?
It's a large envelope. If you recall, it's under that Safe Restart agreement. So
Yep.
That was just a preliminary, and I think we agreed that specific requests would come to council, and here we have one, and just like we had the one from the Senior Center for Excellence too. So whatever you decide, that's roughly what we're looking at, and we can modify it. There's a couple of other items in there that may not come to pass, and we'll bring another report before the end of the year, but that's kind of the ballpark that we're working with.
Right. I think Councillor Dirksen's concern, Gord, was if it's only, we have a lot more than 25,000.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think
we have a
kind of
couple
put
of
a figure
items.
25 just arbitrarily, not knowing what the groups might need, Judy. But there's more that we're not going to blow the budget on one item. Is that what your concern was?
Yes, because I thought I heard that here this evening that it was 25,000 for community groups.
Yeah.
Maybe I misunderstood that.
No, I kind of got the feeling, but I knew we had more but Gord did back in July, we were guessed around 25, but then that 10,000 came out of nowhere either. So, but we were able to do that one because that wasn't probably in one of our groups originally.
No, certainly wasn't. But then again, there's a couple of items I can think of that may not come to pass. Mm-hmm. So I think we're okay for now.
Yeah. Now I have Councillor McKenzie, then Councillor Anderson. Go ahead, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm reading here they had a shortfall of 14,800 because of the COVID condition. So I don't see an amount here they're asking for. Is that what we'll set an amount, or what's the?
I think that's what they're coming. Maybe Derek can answer that, but I think that's what they're coming to the table for right now. That'll get them back into back to the starting grid. I think.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor McKenzie, my understanding is that's what they're asking for to make them whole.
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't read that way, but I'll find out if that's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, anyways. I think Councillor McKenzie. Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
I was just wondering why they didn't take admission at the door, if that's the normal practice, and that would help offset their expenses.
At what door?
They say that when games were permitted, we did not take admission at the door.
Well, Derek, you can maybe speak to that, but I think the games, when we say that, Councillor Anderson, they weren't real games. They weren't like other towns and stuff like that. All they got to do last year was play 3-on-3, and some other, they weren't playing, there wasn't a regular season for them last year.
Well, I understand that, but
So there wouldn't have been any gate because they weren't allowed spectators.
okay.
So if I could real quick, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Anderson, you may recall we were in the different colored zones for most of that year.
Yep.
And under the red zone, we weren't allowed to have participants. Or sorry, spectators, pardon me, sorry.
They could have, the numbers were, I think, Gene, that you could have one parent or something to be there, and that was it.
Okay, so there were no.
It's a
okay.
misnomer when they say games money. Yeah,
Right, because when I'm reading this, I'm thinking if we had games, we had participants, why wouldn't we have charged? Because hey, they got to go see something. They should have been able to charge double.
and none of us could go see anything last year. when
Right.
they-
So
yeah,
I go,
right,
well, if you
yeah.
had a game, hey, okay.
I saved a lot of money, Gene. I saved probably $100 in fees going to
Yeah,
watch my
a
kids
lot of-
play.
A lot of people saved a lot of money in certain areas. That's right. All those vacations that didn't get taken.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
I was just curious about that, why they wouldn't do that too. So again, I'm gonna go back and I know you answered this, Gord. We allocated out of the starting safe or whatever fund, 25 to community groups. So if we gave them this 14.5, it would eliminate that fund, but there's more money that could be switched into there. Is that my understanding?
Exactly. That was a
Okay.
very high level allocation, kind of based
Okay.
on what we
All right.
knew of and what we anticipated. And in July, we have not received any requests except for a couple of minor ones that I think
Right.
amounted to $2,500. So yeah, I think they're following the process exactly as we. kind of
Okay,
thought.
I think I share the same thoughts with Councillor Dirksen, that if 14.5 is going to wipe out the account, I would maybe go with 10 to leave something for somebody else to ask for. But if somebody else comes up with a need,
Yeah.
we can still reallocate funds. You would think they'd have put in by now, but
I think you might see one from the figure skaters shortly because they were just
Okay.
working on the process.
all right.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Turton.
Do you need a motion for this?
Yes, I would love a motion. Go ahead.
Got it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton and a second by Councillor Elliott. Anybody opposed? Carrie, did we lose Judy?
I do not see her on there right now. I believe she was having a few issues,
She was having some,
but she is jumping back on and we will continue. We still have quorum.
yeah, well, I think she was having your problems, Mark, there when I was talking earlier. She's delayed. Like, you know, how you were delayed at one time. She's back. We just voted, Judy, to approve it. You want to put your vote in now? Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
Yes, I'm in favor.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I need a motion on the correspondence then too, I guess, Annalee, right?
Yeah, so I believe it's moved by Councillor Gunn.
Oh, here it is.
We can't
Moved
have
by
Councillor
Councillor
Gunn.
Johnson,
Please,
second by
please change that. I guess Councillor Gunson's back, so he can move that.
He's
Yes.
back. He can do that. I think
Yep.
there he is. Moved by Councillor Gunston, second by Councillor Dirksen. The council receives the correspondence for information. And just on that, Councillor Gunston, we approved the money for the minor hockey. So you can go back to your group, and we appreciate all your hard work and dedication into the minor hockey and what it does for the town. And certainly, hopefully this year will be a lot smoother than last year for you.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's approved. Nobody opposed that. I will go to reports. And I haven't got Ashley. Ashley's not reporting today. We got Terry. So big upgrade here, I guess, Terry, eh? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Anderson at council. Oh, go ahead. You want to do the report and then I'll do the thing. It's on part lot control. Jeff Metzger's property.
Yep. Okay. So the first report we have on tonight is for part lot control on Bolton Street in Palmerston. Council will recall recently approving a minor variance application to rectify a few zoning deficiencies on this parcel as part of this part lot control application. So this part lot control application will essentially split the property into 4 parcels. In the report, there is the map that shows the different components. The parts 2 to 4 are proposed to be sold to individual owners. And then the owner of the property, who is 2626514 Ontario Inc., which is Jeff Metzger, is going to retain the corner lot parcel. So part lot control, as we mentioned before, is needed to legally split these parcels into separate ownership. So if there's any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Questions? Councillor Elliott.
So they're already built and everything's ready to go and they're ready to move into this. Is this where we're at on these buildings then?
That's correct. Yeah, the proposed move-in dates that have been set are early November. So they're very near completion of the construction at this point.
So are we all done with the drainage problems that people have had concerns about, neighbors and such?
We did address some immediate concerns that were raised from that heavy rainfall we had. I know the property, actually I haven't been out there this week. It isn't to a stage where it's finally graded yet. So those grading issues and compliance with the grading plan still will have to be achieved and verified by their engineer and possibly ours as well.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, and I think you're right, Councillor. We're trying to keep an eye on that as best we can. And it's unfortunate that the neighborhood out there managed to get all that rain. We've had quite a few large rain events.
I think the timing was wrong, and
this was just sad. But we made a commitment. I know this council made a commitment to the landowners out there, the other property owners, that we'll do our best to make sure this is rectified when we finish, right?
Yeah, and I think that's with every building that we build, we have to have a drainage, and you can't drain into other people's properties. So
yeah, it's all there, and I leave it up to Terry and the engineers to make sure that happens.
We got to trust our engineers when it comes to that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. So I moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Anderson. The Council of Town of Minto receives the planning technician's report regarding the part lot control exemption application for 2626514 Ontario Inc. Jeff Metzger's for property legally described as lot 109 of Fuller and Watson survey in the former town of Palmerston with the municipal address of 270, 280, and 290 and 300 Bolton Street in the town of Minto, and considers passing the bylaw in open session. Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, go ahead, Terry, you're up again.
Actually, Jessica is going to speak to this one first, and then if there's any questions that she can't answer, or if there's any points
okay, go ahead, Jess.
You can add those.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. I'm Jessica Rahim from the County of Wellington Planning Department, and I'm representing town planning staff tonight. So we're here tonight to update council on the revised subdivision application applied for by MEX Development Inc. in Harriston. So a subdivision application, official plan amendment application, and zoning bylaw amendment application were submitted in February of 2020 for a mixed density residential development. If you recall, there was a public meeting that was held in September of 2020 and no concerns were received from the public at that time. Since then, the county official plan amendment has been approved by the county council on April 29th of 2021. And the county and town have provided comments to the developers regarding the subdivision and the zoning amendment application. And revisions have been made by the developers, and a second submission was provided to the town and county of May of this year addressing those comments. A revised draft plan was submitted to the town on September 20th, 2021. And this revised plan will need to be formally submitted to the county to be recirculated to agencies and the public. So at this time, we've brought forward, so at this time, town staff and town engineers have prepared final town conditions of draft approval that were attached to my report. And if council is in support of the proposed draft plan of subdivision, a recommendation of support should be passed and forwarded to the County of Wellington. Once that's done, our next steps would be for draft approval at the county. And then town can proceed with developing a subdivision agreement. And then following that, we can come back to local council for passing local zoning bylaw amendment there so that we can proceed with the development. And just a quick note, there was a last minute condition change on condition 9, I believe, that I think was sent around to council, just about the conveyance of lands to the town for block 83. And if council has any questions, I'm here to answer any of those.
Thank you, Jessica. Yes. Councillor Elliott.
Jessica, now that they've done this and they've had their opportunity to bring forward any questions, any of the neighbors and such like, will they have an opportunity again to ask any questions or bring any concerns or whatever they may do? Can they talk to this again, or is this over?
So through you, Mayor, the public meeting has been done and over with. However, we are still in an open process, and there is the opportunity for members of the public to write in if they have any concerns to both town and county staff, and we can continue to work with them and if they have any major concerns. But so far, we haven't received anything that I'm aware of. It's just we're still working on circulation of the September 20th submission that was sent in. It was just a couple minor revisions to the draft plan that needs to be formally circulated again.
So they'll have the opportunity in an open meeting of council to be able to have concerns if they have them.
Through you, Mayor, no, it wouldn't be open council. They just have the opportunity to write in. We've had our open council public meeting in September of last year, so it would just be formal submissions there.
The decision's in to go ahead with as put forward now.
Sorry, say that again.
Our subdivision is okay to move ahead no matter what.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Jess, would you just take a moment, please? This is the draft plan of subdivision. We passed this tonight. The next step is the subdivision agreement, you said, and then the next step is the passing of the zoning bylaws. Can you just elaborate a little bit? Because it seems like this subdivision has been going on for a long time. And how close are we to getting houses on it?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, subdivision applications do usually take longer than our standard zoning amendment applications or minor variance applications. So we have been working back and forth with the developers and the planning consultants, and we were able to circulate the April 29th. Oh, sorry, no, that's the county, the May submission. And we received comments from that. And then there have been a couple last minute changes with the September 20th, but there was nothing major for those changes. Timing wise, so then next we'd be looking at draft approval at the county level. So with the September 20th, I'm just trying to figure this all out. With the September 20th submission, we do need to still receive a formal submission from the developers at the county. They're aware of that, and that will need to be circulated. We'll need to give our timeline to allow for opportunity for comments. And then once that's done, then we should have our full draft conditions. So tonight we just have the town conditions. We would have our full draft conditions, including conservation authorities, etc. And then once there's draft approval, then we would just be coming back, because we've already done the public meeting for the zoning bylaw amendment. We would just be coming back with the bylaw for council to consider. So I don't know exact timing on that. Hopefully spring next year, assuming developers would prefer that.
Jessica, I was not in any way taking a shot at anybody. I was just merely wondering, is it next year likely?
Hopefully. again, I think town engineers definitely usually have the most comments regarding subdivisions. And it seems like they've provided all of those and we're moving forward with the town conditions. Other conditions are usually pretty standard, general. So from the school boards and the conservation authorities, those are usually pretty standard conditions from them on subdivisions. So hopefully with our circulation of the September submission, it wouldn't be an extended period of time that would be required there. And then it would be up to the county, so myself, to move forward with the draft conditions and draft approval there.
Okay, thank you.
So if I got it right, Jessica, right now, it's sort of, if we pass this tonight, it's sort of back in the developers' hands, and they're going to try to, you've asked them to give it back to you, and then you'll take it from there. So
yeah, so you guys are just tonight you're approving town conditions, and it'll be back in the developer and again with the county, because the county is the approval authority for subdivisions.
So I guess Derek and Terry, you've been working on this. Either one of you can answer this, but I think what Deputy Mayor Turton wants to get to is, can we be ready for next spring's building? And there'll be nothing we are doing, I think, that will hold it up. Deputy Mayor Turton. I don't think the county is going to hold it up in any way. So it'll be up to the developer how fast they want to go on this.
And they're very close to having their final design done. So Kim has been working close with Triton as well as municipal staff. So they're working on not just the prelim design like normally happens in a subdivision. They've been working behind the scenes on the technical documents as well. So I definitely, they definitely could be shovel in the ground in the spring.
Yeah. So we're doing the best we can to make sure this happens, because we really need this development to get going. We're in a housing shortage right now, so we need to move it as fast as we can. Okay. Any other questions? Derek, did you want to speak on that, or are you good? Oh, he's left me. Oh, there he is. He's back.
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I just maybe one comment that, and I think it was Councillor Elliott's comment around the public. The public will have an opportunity to address council when they approve zoning. So there is that opportunity. It still has to come back for a couple of local matters. So they if they wanted to, they could delegate to council at that time as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I've got here, moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Elliott, the Council of Town of Minto receives the planning technician's report for the draft plan of subdivision 23T 2021 for MEX Developments Inc. It recommends the approval to the County of Wellington, subject to conditions set out in Schedule A. Further, the Council of Town of Minto endorses the draft plan subdivision 23T 2021 with the Town of Minto staff advising the County of Wellington of the Council's decision. Anybody opposed? Carried. Great. Just keep moving this along. It's all good. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, are you handling this one, Terry?
Yes, I've got this next report. So this report is regarding a surplus farm dwelling severance, which is currently owned by J&K Agro Services and BJ&S Enterprises. It's located at 6167 Fifth Line. The purpose of the application is to sever an approximate 2.7 acre parcel, which has a house and a shed on it, and which would leave about 32.37 acres of agricultural land. There is a barn located on the residential portion at this time, but they are in the process of demolishing it. So by the time this application is done, I'm sure it will be gone. So also with the map that was attached to the report, the proposed severed residential portion butts up to a rail land, which kind of bisects this property. The owners are in the process of purchasing that from, I believe it's CN that still owns it, because they own a portion of our ag land on the other side of the rail land. So the game plan was to buy the rail land and then merge all the agricultural portions together. Having said that, that has not happened or been completed to date. I believe the county is going to be asking them to reduce the residential portion slightly. If you look at the map, the residential portion butts right up to that rail land. And if they don't reduce that back part, the application will actually split one parcel into three inadvertently because of the driveway of the residential portion, and then you got the two farmlands on either side. So that is not a town requirement, that would be a county requirement, because as you know, they don't allow for any vacant land service or severances in prime ag land. So staff has reviewed the application. Our standard comments are included in the report, and this will have to come back to council for rezoning. From our portion, the frontage is lower than what's required. They're proposing a touch less than 66 feet, where zoning requires 100 feet, which I don't believe staff is going to have any issue with it, because they're basically just reducing the width of the frontage to the width of the existing driveway to retain as much agricultural land as possible. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to field them.
Questions? Councillor Dirksen, go ahead, Judy.
So I understand the idea of saving as much farmland as possible, but when I look at that boundary line around there, it's sort of like a maze, and I guess I'm just picturing farm equipment trying to navigate that. And true enough, once if the boundary at the back of the property is brought in towards the buildings, that will help a little bit. But I guess I'm just seeing the future as being boundary disputes all over the place, because how do you follow that line? And then the equipment won't be able to get around that line very well either. So you're going to have wasted farmland anyway. So I guess I was just wondering if there's any thought about maybe kind of making those lines a little straighter or something, or at least not zigzagged.
Yeah, no, and that's a valid point, Councillor Dirksen. I know some other counties do allow for, or actually require, rectangular severances for these surplus farm dwelling severances. But the issue with that, it includes a lot more of the ag land into the residential. And some layouts of the existing building cluster, septic systems, trees and stuff like that don't facilitate square corners. But I do totally understand what you mean about, where the heck is my property line 10 years down the road, because the pins have been disturbed and, there's no reference points to anything. So it probably doesn't answer your question, but that's about all I can do.
Well, I had a chance to state it anyways. So
There you go. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, I got a move by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Anderson. The Council of Town of Minto recommends the County of Wellington Land Division Committee approve the consent application for B7121 J&K Agro Services Inc. and B&S Enterprises Inc. McLaughlin for land legally described as concession for part lot 72 and municipal address of 6167 5th line in the town of Minto, and the following conditions be considered. Do you want me to read all those conditions? Are you good for that, guys? Okay.
I think probably the conditions are good as
They're
noted.
similar to what we always do. Okay. Anybody opposed? That's carried. And I'll turn the chair over to Councillor Dirksen. Go ahead, Judy.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have to get to the right page here. Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over anyways to, I'm not sure whether, Mark and Todd are both here, so who's doing the speaking first?
I'll take this one.
Okay, so yes, we're going to hear from our wastewater services manager, Todd Rogers, to give us a report.
Thanks, Councillor Dirksen. Good evening, Council. So yeah, the water wastewater team, we're looking at to complement our staff with 2 additional operators between the 2 departments. Some of the history here: prior to 2019, the team consists of 9 licensed operators at various levels. We find ourselves now, after some retirements and reorganization, we're at a level of 8 operators. In the report here, we've highlighted some of the big demands on our operator hours and the increases that we're seeing. So a few of the highlights are our water meter program. Since we put in our meters, there is a lot more time spent with downloads, meter maintenance, customer complaints. Increased and ever-changing regulatory requirements. A couple of examples of this is our stormwater collection, our linear infrastructure program. And in Mark's side of things here, he highlights an interesting one here, the TKN monitoring in Harrison. 3 hours per day, 100 days per year. So it's a big demand on our time. Another one that, of course, development's always increasing. And so as part of that, our departments are involved in inspections of servicing. And another huge demand on our time is the locates. So highlighted in this report, prior to one call, we had 145 locates that year. This year, we're going to exceed 600 at the rate we're going. So puts a lot of time demand on the guys. Another important consideration here that we're looking kind of into the future and succession planning. So we have 2 senior operators that in the next 5 years can retire. And we just want to make sure that by the time these guys leave, that we give them time to help with the training and impart their knowledge on what new staff we have coming in. And then finally, just the whole licensing of operators, it's a timely thing. And in a perfect world, you go out and you get a fully licensed operator, but usually that isn't how it works. So you got to work up through the ranks, and that takes a considerable amount of time. So that's where we're at currently. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, I see Councillor Elliott first, and then Councillor Elliott.
Todd, I appreciate the fact we need a couple staff now. Will you try and hire qualified people, or will you just put it out and get the closest quality you can get and train them after the fact?
For sure we want to get the best qualified employees that we can get. It saves us a lot of time in the long run if they're already licensed, right? But we've taken a lot of operators that we currently have on that we've started at lower levels and worked them up through the ranks, and that works well for us too. It just kind of comes down to what we get for applicants, really.
Supply and demand.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody, for example, that has no training whatsoever, it's raw to the business, will they get less money than what you're offering here? Or
for sure. What you have here is the maximum. So that would be fully licensed in both wastewater and water.
Okay.
Chances of that not real likely. So yeah, that is the maximum consideration. Most likely it'll be considerably lower than that.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate it.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Chair. So these water, wastewater CFQs, whatever you want to call them, they're providing this at the community colleges, right? You guys both went there. I'm sure you did, Mark. Possibly not you, Todd. But so are the colleges, so I mean, when you look at these 2 guys over the next 5 years that are retiring, are the colleges turning out enough apprentices, enough people to staff and man? Because we're not unique here, okay? We're losing people to retirement, attrition. We're growing. We need more staff. And likely every other city, town, municipality in the province is the same. Like, is this something that you think that we're going to have trouble finding? Or is it something that we should be talking to our MPPs about? And I know that we've talked to them about this. Can you just comment, please?
Yeah. So prior to COVID, when we would go to industry meetings, those types of things, it always is a topic of discussion of how many operators are leaving and the lack of operators coming in. They are promoting it at the college level. There are co-op programs out there, but it's a big problem. I don't think it's just our industry, but it's definitely been highlighted in the water and the wastewater industry that there is a lot more people leaving for retirement than there are coming in at the bottom end. So yeah, it's going to continue to be an issue for sure.
So and I know that we've talked about, we have the same issues as well where I work, and we have met with our MPPs numerous times, and they're trying to work with us. I'm not sure if I if I see a lot of ground being made here in the different apprenticeships and stuff. But I mean, you're really doing a great job with the co-op people. I know you're bringing them in, and that's a great way to encourage people to come to Minto. And I know that our hospitals are doing the same thing. We're bringing in people and giving them an idea of what our community is. And I congratulate you guys for that. And, you know, keep up the good work and good luck.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Turton and Mayor Bridge.
Yeah, and what Deputy Mayor Turton's talking about is exactly, and he knows, being in the industry as well, he's got issues at his own plants, I'm sure, getting workers. We just finished a very large report that's going to the government that was given to the money from to the Western Wardens to do a strategic workforce planning strategy. And I was able to present that to the committee. I'll be presenting to Western Wardens on Friday for approval. And then from there, it goes back to the consultants to finish up some of the strategies that we're going to work on, Deputy Mayor Turton. And one of the big things is skilled labor. And we have the minister, Monty, is looking at this report. There's going to be some things in there. There has to be some changes. We're in a situation right now. The report showed that by 2030, we'll need 51,000 more jobs in the Western Wardens area, which goes from Windsor to, that's not counting cities, it goes to Windsor to the county. And we're going to have attrition that will, basically what we need is 213,000 more people. So we have to come up with a bunch of new ideas, and we have to come up with some really good action plans, both at the county and the local level, and at the province and at the feds. The federal government has to work on immigration and migration. They have to fix up some of the problems we have there. This is a big problem, and we got it all over Canada, but we definitely have it in our area. And for us to continue to be successful and prosperous, if we can't get people to fill our jobs, we're in big trouble. And so thanks for bringing that up. And so when we hear things like Todd and Mark talk about, if they had that perfect person that had both things, I doubt if you're going to see that. And I really give you guys a lot of credit for training some good people over the years. And I've seen some of the growth of some of your employees that have grown. Mark, I remember when we sent you off way back when I believe and got it going. So this is a big problem, and it's not just in your area, it's in everything, as Deputy Mayor Turton said. So hopefully some help is on the way, but certainly the other levels of government certainly know that there's a big issue and they have to be part of the solution. And we're working on that, and I'll be able to bring that report to you. It's broken right down into Wellington County. So we got our county stats, we got our town stats. We can break it right down into Minto, and it's got housing, it's got a bunch of things in there that we'll be able to bring in. I think we're going to have some interesting opportunities going forward. So I'll just turn that back to you, Councillor.
Okay, thank you for that, Mayor Bridge. Are there any other questions? Okay, and before I read the recommendation, Todd, I'm sorry, I think I gave you a different title there than what is really yours. So you don't worry, you don't have two jobs, and don't worry.
Yeah, Mark was mad. You took his title and gave it to Todd.
I know, so yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so I have this recommendation that Council of the Town of Minto receives the report from the Wastewater Services Manager and the Water Services Manager dated October 19th, 2021 regarding addition to complement 2 water wastewater operators, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto approve the addition of 2 water wastewater operators. Okay, is there anyone opposed to that? Okay, I see none, so I'll declare the motion carried, and thank you, gentlemen, and I'll pass the chair back to Mayor Bridge.
And I'll just flip it over to Deputy Mayor Turton as he's taking the next round.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Bridge. I'd like to welcome our treasurer with us this evening. We've got 2 very important items to discuss. The first one is the appointment of auditors, and I'll ask Gord to give us some insight into this.
Great, thank you, Chair Turton. So this was an example of kind of us working in cooperation with other municipalities, which I know we've always tried to do, and it's certainly become more important in the last few years. So we were able to work with the Township of Center Wellington, the Township of Wellington North, and the Township of Portsmouth on a joint proposal for audit services. Now, the four of us are very different. So we agreed that we had to award the successful auditor individually. Some of us have certain entities. Center Wellington is kind of unique that they have a hydro utility, and that certainly narrows the field to find someone who has expertise in that. And but it was really great. I really want to thank especially the staff at the Township of Center Wellington. They have a very robust procurement department and program. So we were able to piggyback on their experience using the bids and tenders website, and also with forms and that too. So we had a lot of preliminary meetings to discuss more generalities. And I believe we had to do a couple of addendums as things came to light. So we put out the proposals, and we had a common due date and relatively common criteria. We kind of used a two-stage process whereby you get the first technical submissions, and then there's a cutoff. And if you meet that criteria, you move on to the second envelope, which is the financial. So as you can see in the report, we got 3 bids, and we had a little internal committee with the deputy treasurer and the payables coordinator and myself, and we went through them individually, and then we got together, and we had a lot of agreement, not really surprising. So we selected 2 firms to move on to stage 2, and both of the firms are very qualified and very experienced, and the bids were quite competitive, as you can see. We also, as you know, since 2015, we've had the independent Minto Municipal Services Corporation, and it's been very active in the last year. And the board of that corporation decided that for the June 30th, 22 year end, we'd like to upgrade that from what is presently a notice to reader, which is just a compilation process and a statement, to a full audit too. So we asked for bids on that. And we would like to recommend the firm of RLB, Robinson, Lott and Bowman, for a 3-year term with an option to renew for 2 more years. And certainly entertain any questions.
Questions for our treasurer? No questions?
Mark.
So, oh, sorry, Councillor Dirksen, and then Councillor McKenzie.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I was first, but I may have just waved. I'm just wondering, through you to our treasurer, how does this price compare to our past auditor that we had working with us?
Very comparable. In general, the price of the audits have gone up by $1,500 to $2,000 per year over the last few years. So this is right in the ballpark.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McKenzie.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Gord, we're extending the contract based on performance.
Yes.
Makes sense. But is Council of the Day locked into the, partly what Councillor Dirksen said there, is the Council of the Day locked into what's presented, their fees, or do we have a chance?
You would be under this process for at least for 21, 22, 23.
So whatever they submit, we're locked into it.
Yeah, which would be the 84,750 for that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Then
then
we'll
we'll
stick at that. There'll be no whopping increases over the next 3.
That's right. And again, that is for standard work. If something comes up that's over and above, and that's a usual clause, because I know I've been on the other side of this one. So.
Yeah, Okay, thanks, Gord.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, Gord, do you want to comment on why Warden Updegrove?
Well, our current incumbents, one of the criteria that we all agreed on is we want an experienced firm. Other than Senator Wellington, we're all pretty small with a limited staff. And you often want to call on other outside experts for, certain legislative interpretations and just general advice. And currently, Town of Minto is the only municipality handled by our current auditors. And Senator Wellington suggested, and we all agreed, that anyone who puts in for this must have experience with a minimum of 3 municipalities. And it is a very specialized area. As the deputy mayor knows, in private industry, the accounting there is very different from what we deal with. So I think it's good to have a firm that has public sector experience. And the 2 competitive firms all have like 50 years plus experience in this sector.
Okay, hearing no other questions, the recommendation then was moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by our Mayor Bridge. The Council of the Town of Minto receives a report from the Treasurer dated October 6, 2021 regarding request for proposal number 3621, external audit services. That the Council of the Town of Minto award the request for proposal 3621, external audit services to RLB Professional Accountants at the price of $84,750 in excluding HST, and that the Council of the Town of Minto considers passing a bylaw in regular session related to the appointment of RLB Chartered Professional Accountants as external auditors for the year of 2021 to 2023, and that the Council of the Town of Minto authorize staff to extend this contract for up to 2 years beyond the initial 3-year term based on performance. So is anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I declare this recommendation passed. The second item where we want to talk about tonight, Treasurer Duff, is the capital budget revisions and the long-term borrowing.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was a little more complicated, but I think you'll see it's pretty understandable. So when we set our capital budget, it was based on what we knew at the time and what we hoped too. One of the things that didn't work out is we had hoped that we would get funding for the last connecting link, which is Arthur Street west of the lights to the former town limits. And that one did not come through. So we're backing that out of the budget, which freed up a little bit of money. As you may recall, these connecting links are great because they're 90% funding of the road portion. So we took that one out. We basically reallocated the 70,000 that we're going to get from OCIF for that project. And we also completed the Allen Street project, which was primarily water in Clifford. And so we were able to reallocate some funds between that and also, if you recall, we kind of have in public works, especially, kind of some broad categories. It might be 300,000 that's for roads or water main replacement. Then they get allocated to a specific place. So Allen Street was where we decided to put most of that, sidewalks and water too. And also we got a little bump in our federal gas tax, so we put that in there too. And that's all kind of outlined in the chart. So that's kind of what happened to the budget that we just did. Now, as far as new items, we were successful in getting the ICIP recreation grant, which again, I think is like 83% funding for the arena renovations. But we did say at the time we would likely have to borrow for our share. And that's going to be about $650,000, which we have in there. We also have some other very important projects, and certainly most of this isn't new, but one is the Palmerston sewer plant, the clarifier, which has been identified as due for replacement. We did some repairs, but they will just kind of carry us through till this work is done. And if you recall, in the wastewater study that we completed about a year ago, I guess, a little bit of going into this year, this was one of the projects that was identified there. It's just around the $3 million mark. We're thinking we'll borrow about $2.5 million for that share of it. The 12th line, again, a project that I know this council is very familiar with. We've done a bit of work on that one probably over the last 3 years, and we'd like to finish the last section, which is a mill and pave, especially towards County Road 6 there, and that's about $500,000. And then speaking of new developments, there's going to be a very welcome expansion to long-term care and retirement development on White's Road, adjacent to the hospital. And that is a very large project. It's on a county road, and our engineers have worked together with Town of Minto staff and County of Wellington staff. Again, as cooperating with the county, we were able to get them to switch their long-term capital and switch a few projects to move the White's Road work up on their schedule. So they're going to handle most of the road work. Our responsibility is certain local features, sidewalks and lights, and also the wastewater servicing for that development. So our engineers have supplied us with cost figures estimated at $575,000 for the roads, $580,000 for the wastewater, and $355,000 for the water. And that's just the portions we hope to borrow for. We also hope to get about $445,000 in development charges and that too. And again, this project was contemplated when we did the water wastewater study, so it was incorporated into that. So we looked at the various options for borrowing. I met with a couple of other treasurers and county staff and our financial agent, and we've decided the cleanest process. And we're no one can perfectly read interest rates, but they are historically low. They've moved up a bit. As we all know, there's a lot of inflationary pressures that seem to be building in the world economy, and economic activity, certainly not across all sectors, but broadly, is increasing. And we figure interest rates are probably going to go up in the next year, certainly not down. And these projects, as you know, we hope to get them going in early 22, get tenders out over the winter. So if I wait till the spring, we may not actually get the money in hand till about next June. So if we go now, we should get it before the end of the year and have the funds to pay all the contracts and that kind of thing. So anyway, in cooperation with the county, if this is approved, then we'll do a debenture bylaw in one of our meetings in November, and then the county will proceed with their final approval at their November county council meeting. So that's the schedule we're on. So again, take any questions.
Councillor McKenzie, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Gord, a couple of questions here. Did we ever, this has been asked before, on the 12th, did we ever get any support from the Miller Group or Murray's on that project down there for the road improvements?
I don't believe so. No. We did
Do we have the right to do that or no?
kind of like you can always ask.
Go ahead.
Perhaps
You know,
the mayor has
we
something.
wouldn't be doing most of it, but
That's right.
anyway, that's.
Yeah.
So it's a
So-
no. All right.
Yeah.
I have another
Councilor
question then. So what is our, if we're going to debenture that again and debt finance, what does that put us at for debt financing now?
Well, so roughly, as you know, we took advantage of a lot of grants in the past, and we did run it up, but currently, roughly, we have $8 million outstanding at the end of 2020. Now, of that 8 million, $1.3 million was borrowed on behalf of North Wellington Healthcare for the Minto Rural Health Center, and it's coming down by 50,000 a year. It's a long term. It's a 30-year debenture, so got a long way to go. We also often look at how do we break it down between water, wastewater, which comes from the rates, and tax supported. So roughly 2.8 million is water, wastewater, 3.7 is tax supported, and a small portion, 120,000 is for tile drains. And that again, we normally collect from the farmer. We've never had a default yet, but we do have to sort on our list. And we pay down roughly 1.1 million in principal on the outstanding debt. So if I kind of look at what we're going to pay down and new borrowing, it will bring us up again to about 10,800,000 in total if we add the 5,160,000. And again, the breakdown on that is about 5,660,000 in water, wastewater, 5,120,000 on tax, and then a little bit on tile drains too, depending if we have new loans and for payouts and that too. So it's certainly up, but it's well within our annual debt repayment limit. That one, I never want to get to it, but we could borrow, I think, about 17 million at 5%, but I would never want to do anything like that as new borrowing.
No. So the impact on tax assessments is not going to increase that much.
Yeah, not that much. It will have an impact, as I think I outlined in the report. Oh gosh, what did you say? I think it was 120,000 on tax support based on rough interest rates, 185 for wastewater because it's very concentrated on the wastewater, and another 23 on water. So it will have some impact, but again, I think all these projects are very necessary. And I wish it covered everything, but it's a good start.
Thanks, Gord.
Mayor Bridge.
Yeah, just to Mark's question, we had discussions with Murray Group, Mark, but you have to remember they're not Murray Group anymore. They're not even Miller's anymore. I think they've been bought and sold at least 3 times since I had the last, or twice since I had the last discussion. And they're owned by a French firm and now a Chinese firm, I think. And there's only about 2 of them. There's only 2 big companies left in road construction out there, and basically in Ontario. So they got kind of a monopoly out there. So although they did talk to us, and I think we got a fair price on our last work that we got out there from them, but yeah, no support. Even though I tried to explain to them that their trucks are causing some of the damage, obviously. But I think this project is finally, we finished the culverts. I don't, Mike's not on the, yeah, Mike's there, but we finished the culverts. And I think now this will finish off that piece that's really in bad shape going from the pits out to 6. And hopefully then with that done, we can keep the trucks off the roads coming the other way, which we really want to try to do. That'll help get them onto the county road and move them out that way. So, and as far as the boring goes, Gord, we over the years we've had this debate, and I really like the way we've positioned ourselves in borrowing going through this. We do pay off. It's like anything else. You pay money off, but then you need a new car, and then you have to go back into debt again. And so we're taking advantage at the right time. I do believe what Gord was saying is about interest rates. I think we're we're getting near the lowest we're going to see. I don't want to say what we're going to get on this one, Gord, because I know you had a quote, and I just hope that's the quote that we get, but it's a good rate. And I think because this is water and tax and roads, so it's two different things. And I know with our water program, users have to pay, so if we have to up the water rates, because we need to make sure our infrastructure is there, clarifiers, and of course we all know the White's Road servicing there and getting that done and getting 100 more beds from Royal Terrace into our long-term care is going to be a big benefit to our community going forward. So all good projects, and I think we've hit the right time to do them, and we'll go from there. But
Are there questions for our treasurer? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Sorry. Gord, I talked to you, or I sent you an email about questions, and I thank you for those answers. So I have some concerns about borrowing money. So firstly, the clinic, the North Wellington Health, what sort of interest rates are they paying for that? Are they equaling, like if we borrow more money and our interest rates go up, do they have an agreement that their interest rates also go up?
No, that agreement, which I think is 2015, the town is totally revenue neutral. The rates are fixed for 30 years. So what happens is we do semi-annual payments. And so when the payment is due, they send us the money, the principal and the interest. It's $25,000 every 6 months plus the interest, and the interest is fixed in that amortization table. So from a cash point of view, we neither profit nor lose.
Okay.
So it's fine.
And just out of interest, what is the interest? No pun intended. What is the interest rate they pay on that, or we pay on that, or?
I will have to confirm, but I think it's around 3% or so. Things were a little higher in 2015. Also, a 30-year term was quite hard to get. That's not a very common one. But we got the best there was. Again, that one was through Infrastructure Ontario. Because it was kind of unique because it wasn't a town of Minto owned asset, but we were able to pass it. But I'll confirm you the exact amount.
That's fine. So in regards to loan versus reserves, where do we stand if we move forward with this? Where does our debt ratio stand in proportion to our reserves?
We'll still be in a positive position on reserves. Reserves are roughly, I think, 12 million, and this would put us up to a little over 10.
So then my other concern comes, we know we have lots of development happening and proposed to happen further down the road. What happens when we need to increase our infrastructure to support that development, which I understand is something we want, but the cost, you have to build the infrastructure to support it before they can put the houses up.
Yes.
So what happens when we have to front the money for like that development, that MEX development, that's 126 units. It's got to put us pretty close to capacity on some of our systems. And that's just my thing down the future, because we know we want that development, not to say that we don't need to do the things that need to be done now as well, but.
I see our CAO, and I bet he's going to mention servicing strategy.
Oh.
So,
go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor Turton, to Councillor Anderson. Am I ever glad you brought this up?
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad.
So, we've been working on a servicing strategy for a few months now, along with sort of a long-term planning strategy as well. And we're going to do exactly what you say. We're going to combine it all together. We're going to show you where our future development is, what future infrastructure we need, and we'll come out with a financial forecast and a financial plan to help support that. So that information is all going to be coming to you. Hopefully I'll have it to you by the end of the year. But yes, staff have been working diligently and trying to put all that information together for council.
You just, because like the interest rates, I don't know, we keep saying they can't stay like this, but they have for a large number of years, but inflation is going to eventually increase interest rates.
Yeah, some of the challenges we have in particular, so the clarifier is a good example where you can contribute the clarifier directly to growth. It's more of a replacement than it is growth. So for instance, if we were going to say build a new well for development, that's all growth related.
Right.
So there is some financial flexibility in how we manage that particular project, if you will. So it depends on the project and it depends what the project's for. So
Okay. All right, just some, concern about foregoing or upcoming costs, but you got to do business.
Yeah, Councilor Elliott.
Yes, and just a comment, developmental fees are supposed to help offset growth. And as we put 130 houses in Harrison, we get 130 developmental fees, which help your plan, Mr. Thompson. Okay. So I think we have a good plan in that. And how often do we get the opportunity to raise our developmental fees or gain with that? Okay, thanks.
Every 5 years?
Every 5 years. And if anything happens that's unforeseen, you can always open it up too. And also, not that, well, as Councillor Anderson says, we have to front the money, but you get those new houses, say, well, there's also new houses paying taxes. They're new water and wastewater customers too. So yes, our costs go up, but in the long term, our revenue goes up too. It's just, you have to do it all up front. And that's what makes it so challenging from a CAS point of view.
You talk about challenges, likely the White's Road will be a challenge in reference to traffic, working by the hospital and all the other things that are happening there. But I mean, we've went through this before, downtowns and downtown streets, and we always have buy-in from our engineers, and it's a good thing. Gord, how do you determine the term?
Basically, I look at the life of the asset. So I kind of have a policy for road work. I don't like to go over more than 10 years. As Mike McIsaac knows, sometimes the road will last less than 10 years. Sometimes if you're lucky, it'll last, 20. But I think 10 is a pretty conservative estimate. And our wastewater pipes, like, hopefully they last 50, 60 years or so. So just kind of 20 seems like a reasonable amount of time for that kind of an asset. And again, you're doing the tightrope. Do you burden all of today's taxpayers with these costs, or do you, divide it over the next generation that'll benefit? And 20 is just kind of a compromise, but more of an art than the science, though. And the other thing is, Deputy Mayor mentioned the White's Road. On the positive side, through that ICIP, rural and northern, we're finally getting the Brunswick Street bridge fixed, and that will be a critical part of any detour.
Yeah, for sure, Gord. Gord, thank you for the report. Any other questions for Gord? Thank you and your team for putting this together. It's a great report. I mean, we're looking into the future here. And so if there's no other questions, the recommendation was moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the Treasurer's October 19th, 2021 report regarding capital budget revisions and long-term borrowing, and that the Council of the Town of Minto considers amending Schedule C of the bylaw 2020-84 in regular session, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto authorize the Treasurer to proceed with debenture financing in the total amount of $5,160,000. It's funny, here we are borrowing a pile of money here and had some great discussions. So Is there anybody opposed? Please raise your hand. Hearing none, I'll pass the chair back to our mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Gordon, your staff for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Turton. And I will then start it up here. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The committee of the whole convenes the regular council. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councillor Anderson. The Council of Town Minto ratifies motions made in the committee of the whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Gunson. The bylaw number 2021-80 to appoint the municipal auditor for the term of 2021-2023 be read first, second, and third time and passed open council and seal with seal of corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor McKenzie, that the bylaw number 2021-81, a bylaw to amend the bylaw 2020-84, being the bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required during the 2021 for the purposes of municipality be approved and read first, second, and third time, passed in open council and seal with seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott, the bylaw number 2021-82, a bylaw to exempt part lot control for lands being part 1 of 4 to 4, 61R 22056, lot 109, Fuller and Watson survey in the town of Palmerston, town of Minto, under section 57.1 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 is amended, be approved and read first, second, and third time, and passed open council and seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Deputy Mayor Turton, that the bylaw number 2021-83 to confirm the actions of the council of the corporation of town of Minto respecting a meeting held October 19th, 2021 be read first, second, and third time and passed in open council and seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, second by Councillor Dirksen. The council of the town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. Deputy Mayor Turton.
Yes, Mayor Bridge, I think you missed C.
C. C, where's C?
Other business disclosed. Or
What?
did you other business disclosed, or was there
Well,
not?
I asked that, nobody put their hand up.
Pardon
so
me, then you didn't miss C then.
I did miss you then on that, Deputy Mayor Turton. Sorry, that's why I didn't do it. Go ahead.
No, I just there was just one thing that came to me. Catch the Ace at the Legion. I know that the Hairstons having Catch the Ace. I'm not sure about Palmerston.
Yep, they are.
Both of our legions need our support. You know, $5, $10 with the ability to win a pretty handsome jackpot.
Yeah.
And you know, so all you need to do is phone the Legion, or if you know somebody that's around selling those tickets. The Legions have suffered quite a bit in our town over the last couple of years, and our volunteers at the Legions are working hard to raise money, and this is a perfect opportunity for all the citizens of the town of Minto and surrounding areas to buy a ticket. And I mean, it's a well-run organization, it's a well-run fundraiser, and I challenge everybody to support them.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my winnings, Deputy Mayor Turton. I'm not seem to be too lucky, but I'm supporting. Put it that way. I haven't been getting any of the benefits, but it's been a great project for them, and without that, I don't think they would have survived, to be honest with you.
We're getting lots of benefits from what they're doing there, so keep that in mind.
Yep, thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't see your hand up when we went through it at the beginning, but that could have missed you. Okay. Okay, and did I do the final thing there? Annalee, did I get it out? Okay. Anybody opposed to adjournment? I don't see any. Have a good one, everybody. Good meeting.
Bye, everyone.
Sorry it
Good
took
night,
us a while
everybody.
on the one meeting part, but we got some good discussion there. So take care. Bye, everybody.